Hello again. Welcome to week 3. So far, this last week, you voted for limited talking head, but there's still time to vote, and I'll probably put it in at the end of this week too. So this week, we'll have limited talking head. I will just introduce what we're going to do, and then my head will go away. So this week's pretty straightforward. We're going to take a look at content-specific tools and give you a chance to build one into your instruction, into your lesson, into a lesson around it, or at least conceptually get an understanding of how you might use it in your classroom. And then we're going to respond to the reading. I think this reading is ripe with things to consider. So we're going to take a look at it from a couple different angles. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the creating teacher or class website assignment and the rubric that's going to be used with it. And I'm going to ask you to use that rubric to take a look at a couple of teacher websites. That's it for now. So bye-bye. Today we're going to look at NCTM's core math tools, or rather I'm going to encourage you to look at NCTM's core math tools. With the core math tools, you can have students explore data sets and examine multiple representations of expression, investigate geometric relationships with dynamic geometry tool, and engage students in pre-designed activities tied to the Common Core state standards for mathematics and the standards for mathematical practice. Best of all, they're free. The NCTM core tools have a couple different flavors. There are general purpose tools that have a lot of capability, and those come in flavors of algebra and functions, statistics and probability, and geometry and trigonometry. And these tools then you can use to sort of aim at a concept that you're trying to build into a given lesson, or there are custom apps, and those change a little bit every time I look at them. But right now, there are some custom algebra apps, a whole bunch of custom geometry apps, and some custom statistical apps. And that last circle was really pretty bad. Let's get my circles all the way. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of apps that gear at one specific concept or one specific capability. There are also sample lesson plans out on the site. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to explore the NCM core tools, either a generalized tool or an app, and design or adapt a lesson around its use for your classroom. Then share a summary, your choice of format, with your colleagues in the discussion forum. Please be sure to link your lesson's content to the Common Core state standards and a mathematical practice within the standards. If you attended Wolfram Technologies virtual conference, you can use something you saw or learned at the conference in lieu of picking a NCTM core tool, and do the same thing. Tell us how you would use it in a lesson in your classroom. For the next activity, I uncharacteristically only chose one reading this week, and that's because I thought it had a lot we could discuss. So in step 2, you're going to end up responding to 3 different questions in 3 different associated forums, all regarding Anthony and Clark's article that's in the week 3 readings. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the fact that when at the beginning of their article, I think it starts on page 1302, Anthony and Clark reviewed barriers researchers have in the past in studies found to technology integration. Of the barriers discussed in this section, I'd like to ask you to identify which ones resonated the most with you. And if you can, please give us an actual example from your experience. Second, quoting the article, one of the dilemmas of practice faced by the mathematics teachers at Harding was to determine the role of technology in their classrooms, whether it would serve as a goal, a tool in pursuit of a goal, a rule to be adhered to, or some combination of all three. End quote. What is the role of technology currently in your classroom? And what would you like it to be? In this form, I would like you to not only answer those questions, but respond to one of your classmates. Do you agree with them or disagree? And if so, why or why not? In their implications sections, Anthony and Clark state, although we agree that pre-service training, teachers' beliefs, and technological and pedagogical content knowledge are important teacher attributes that contribute to technology integration, we conclude that consistent and effective integration of technology in challenging teacher contexts also demands an awareness and understanding of contextual contradictions that impede technology integration, and ability to view the contradictions as not necessarily surmountable, but manageable. This possession of personal attributes allows for interdependence among teacher colleagues and comfort in pedagogical risk-taking. And that quote was on page 1325 if you want to look it up. My question for the third forum is, how do you interpret their conclusions? What are they saying in that quote? And do you agree or disagree? Now it's time to take something you have commented on in the previous three forums about Anthony and Clark's article and the things they were saying, or something you didn't comment yet but you want to, and you want to tie it to the NETS T's and the standards for mathematical practices. And you're going to do that by adding one POPL. So just one POPL with a quote, a quick comment or summary of something, a point that was made in the article, and then connect it to either ISTE's NETS for teachers or a mathematical practice. Finally, we're going to investigate what makes a good teacher website. And we're going to do that by reviewing the teacher or classroom website assignment for this class, which all of you indicated in your survey is probably going to be the easiest of our assignments. And then you're going to use the teacher or classroom website rubric that we'll use for that assignment to evaluate two websites of your choice. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is now go off to our Titanium site. On our class Titanium page, if you scroll down through week 1 and week 2, which you should be completing by now, through at the bottom of week 3, you will see a form where we'll be reviewing the teacher websites. But before we take a look at that, let's take a look at the actual teacher or classroom website assignment. There's an assignment page here, and it says, in this assignment you will create either a professional teacher website or blog, including annotated sets of links, options for visitor commenting, and at least one embedded multimedia file. In other words, a video, podcast, or applet. Or you can do a professional classroom website or blog, including calendar, objectives, and assignments, options for student interaction, links for students to learn more about specific content topics, and at least one embedded multimedia file. You may do this using an application of your choice. If your school website allows you to fulfill the requirements of this, that's great. You can use that and extend that. We recommend Google Sites, Weebly, Edmodo. Those are ones that are commonly used. But I've given you a list here of website creation tools for educators. And on this page, there is a list of different tools you can use and links to those pages. I have not used all of them, but a fair number of them. I recommend you review several of the links I've provided here before you get started. This is a page, it's from the Computing Technology for Math Excellence collection of pages, which are really great pages. In their technology integration section, they have a whole section on web page design. And so this is a nice look, yeah, three-part look of designing a math page, and they go through the principles of web design, good pages. They give you examples. They talk about accessibility. So it's one resource you may want to browse through. There is a sort of a guide that talks about designing your website from the bottom up. It's a way to think about designing your website by a teacher for educators. And then there's K through 12 tech tools and their sort of tips on classroom website design and examples and tools. On this K through 12 tech tools website, there's also a step-by-step instructions for building, it's a PDF, for building a classroom website using Google Sites. So it walks you through the process. There's also a short article about Weebly for education that leads to more resources if you want to build something on Weebly. I've given you Google Site tutorials curated by Dr. Shan and Weebly tutorials curated by Dr. Shan. Now, when you're taking a look at doing this, the first thing you should probably do, and that's what the whole purpose of this last step in this week is for, is to take a look at the teacher or class website rubric, which is a Word document that's available on several places on the Titanium site, and it goes through what we're going to be using to evaluate teacher or classroom websites. Now, the assignment itself is worth 50 points, of which 45 of the points come from this rubric, and the other 5 points come from posting an initial draft of your website and then giving some feedback back to some of your classmates about their initial website designs. So this rubric goes, is on a 0 to 5 point scale. And it goes over you want to look at the relevance of the content to the teachers or learners and the originality of the content, and that's weighted twice, which means this is really 0 to 10 points worth, this area. The usefulness of the content and frequency of updates, that's also weighted twice. Then the interactivity and multimedia, the design and professionalism, the font and text layout and appearance, and all of those sites I gave you have guidelines for these categories. Spelling and grammar, and then making sure you're using fair use guidelines and attributions. So you want to take a look at this rubric, and what I want you to do is use this rubric to evaluate 2 teacher websites of your choice. On the sites, on the links on the assignment page, people just doing a random search, I would like you to find a couple of sites and evaluate it in this rubric. And when you post, you just have to say like relevance, and say 4 points or 8 points if I want to know what you would score the site, so you want to give me the link to the site and what you would score the site by category, and then total, and then any other comments you want to make about the site. So you want to take a look at that, the assignment and that rubric, before you come down here and evaluate a site. And where you're going to put your evaluations, where it says review of teacher websites, that's a form set up. It's a standard form. It says choose 2 different teacher or classroom websites and use the rubric for the teacher or classroom website assignment to evaluate the site. Post a discussion for each website. So you'll be posting 2 discussion topics here, 1 for each website, and include in your review the rubric scores and also a link to the site so that we can go out and see it. So don't make them both other teacher sites at your particular site or two people you know. Use some of the best examples that are provided in some of the links, and find a couple of sites, review it, and the whole purpose now of this assignment is to get us looking at teacher websites and evaluating them. You all indicated that this was probably the assignment you will be most comfortable with in this course. So I want us to be looking at them with a more critical eye towards what our websites should look like. And so week 3 ends with a review of 2 websites using the teacher or class website rubric. Okay. And if you remember, pulled from our syllabus, I've actually have it already up here real quick, our syllabus. But in our syllabus, I'm going to use the assignment sort of summary here, but the teacher website has lots of dates associated with it. So let me just review that real quick with you. By next Saturday, what I'd like to see is just that you've started it, or you've chosen where you're going to do it. So you should have, by next Saturday, have put into our database the site, if you will. And we're just calling that a draft. And just by getting it started and you're thinking about what you're going to do with it, okay, that's halfway through those first initial 5 points. Then version 1 of the site is due the following week, Saturday, February 15th. And again, our agreement is you have through the whole weekend to get it done. But that site is the site I'm going to ask your colleagues, your classmates, to go out and take a look and give you some comments on. The final version is due on March 1st. That's the version that I'll use the rubric on and evaluate it and give you an initial scoring on your site. But then you are allowed to, based on that feedback, review it, revise it, add things to it, and resubmit. Well, not resubmit, but update it, because it's a link that we'll have to. And then to achieve additional points, basically of any on that's April 19th. So you have basically the whole course to be working on this site and finalizing it. The final version on March 1st will be what is scored, but then you have a chance to improve it and get a rescoring on it in mid-April. It's worth 20% of the class. A total of 200 points. The rubric is 50 points, and then it's just multiplied by 4. So hopefully the mechanics, I've explained now the mechanics of this particular assignment. I'm going back now to our site, and this is just a link to, if you remember, in week 1, we had a database that you put your blog. Right here, we had a database that you put your blog and website, blog URLs in. Well, this down here is just a link to that. You can go to either place. It's the same database. And this is where, right now, we currently have people have put their blog URLs in, and this is where you will add now a website URL, so that we have both of them. Everyone has access to both the blog and the website URLs in this class database. Hopefully this is this week in a nutshell. I look forward to talking to you throughout the week. I will get you feedback on week 2, midweek next week, and then we'll get week 4 posted on Friday or Saturday of next week. I will send out an announcement, but I also want to beg your forgiveness ahead of time that I will be out of pocket essentially from Tuesday afternoon through Saturday. I will be checking my email as often as I could, but I will basically be running the registration desk of a fairly large conference, and it will be sporadic. I will do the best I can to catch up as fast as I can starting Sunday, February 9th. So between now and then, please, everybody, have a great week. Don't hesitate to send an email if you have any issues about anything. Okay, questions or comments. Thanks a lot. I'll see you soon, or talk to you soon.